What is up, guys and goddesses? My name is Paris Clarice. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Okay, so I'm gonna start off today's videos. I got some bubbles. And they're so pretty. I got these for my daughter basically. And I believe I ran out of incense. Surprisingly. So I'm just gonna blow these bubbles. Try to like lighten the mood, you know, in my videos, to just kind of like calm before speaking. Okay, so let's get into it. So basically today, the topic of the day is love. Why did I choose to speak about love today? Well, normally I like to kind of plan out my videos, plan out what I want to talk about, plan out what I want to speak about, plan out everything. But I wanted to talk today, tonight, about love, I guess. And basically I kind of wanted to talk about some stuff that so basically tonight I wanted to talk about love. And the main reason, because like sometimes when I'm cleaning up or just doing daily tasks, I'll like have to my mind basically anything that will come to my mind basically about what I want to talk about. And so basically this was on my mind today. I kind of wanted to talk about how my growth with what love is has kind of changed, from me just being like a young adult to when I was possibly like a kid, and I'd say possibly to my middle ages, like, you know, high school and middle school, whatever, you know. My feelings towards love, as well as what I believe love is, changed. I'm still learning things every day, but just being like a young female, a young mom, a young girl within her 20s, and just like being able to kind of recognize better what love is and have a better definition, a better understanding of it. What I can say mainly, what I've kind of discovered about love is just basically that love is a practice. So, and I did a little reading too, I can say, that kind of helped me better understand it. A lot of times we want this adrenaline rush of just feeling good, or feeling wanted, or feeling cared for, feeling loved, when who doesn't, you know. But at times then when we don't get that adrenaline rush, or we don't get that feeling of being just this adrenaline rush feeling that just feels so great, you know. It makes you feel like magic, basically. When we don't get that feeling, a lot of times we can narrow it to disappointment rather than just, how do I put this to words, basically. We can kind of narrow it to disappointment, and I feel like mainly it's because we have such this expectation towards things and just people and just sometimes places and feelings, and when you don't get that adrenaline rush, you feel like maybe something is wrong or this and that can affect things within how your relationships develop and how your mental space develops and just how you operate basically within love. Because love is not expected, and that was coming to my mind earlier, and I was just like, okay. Basically, I felt like at times when I was, well, what I've recognized during my early 20s now is that love is a practice. And back to saying what love is a practice is, basically it's practicing love. Just like how you were to do healing, you can't just heal one day and then expect everything to be, you know, perfect or grand. And yes, it may feel good in that moment. You feel like, okay, you know, but sometimes it takes consistency. And just like when you want to be good at something, like if you were to be, like match it with like sports to say, like I used to do cheer, and like, well, in cheer, you would have to practice, even though I hated practice. But in order for me to perform or be able to like be good at what I'm doing, it still takes consistency, it still takes practice. Even if you're good at it, if you stop doing something for a long amount of time and then you think, oh, I can do this, and then when you stop doing it and all of a sudden when you do it again after such a long time, and then it just doesn't work out the same exact way, it's almost like you're kind of like, what happened? Did I just lose my spark? No, you kind of left off on something, you kind of pushed it away, which makes it kind of like less, which makes it where you weren't being consistent within what you were doing. And so basically, like, I'm trying to work on that within my life, being consistent and then managing some sort of balance, and then also being a mom, but mainly consistency is like the biggest thing, because we can get so off track and your emotions can get you so off track. And back to love, basically love is practice. Like, look at love like a sport. If you're not practicing love, if you're not necessarily practicing love daily, or at least most of the time, or trying to be consistent with practicing love, or practicing how you want to be loved, then it won't necessarily, it'll be inconsistent. And then when things are inconsistent, like if you were to think of a relationship, any form of inconsistency brings off balance. And that can be emotionally, spiritually, physically, and it all still correlates back to love. And the main thing with love too that I'm recognizing in my early 20s, that I'm trying to get to a point where I am consistent with and healing within myself every day and working towards it, basically finding that balance and finding the time to work towards it, I'd say it would be consistency with loving myself, because love is a practice and it starts with you. And so once you have this love within yourself, then it will exclude to everything else. And I do wish at points in my life that I could have recognized that love, because I remember at one point I kind of was like kind of strayed and kind of lost into a point of where I did not necessarily recognize, okay, the gift and the power that I hold within myself, within loving myself, basically. And I remember feeling very insecure, and even at times now I can have those moments. But if I get to a point like today was pretty great for me, because I finally had the time and to handle things on my own. When I catch those moments, I'd be like, man, what be going on? Like, how do I get from there to there, and then just jumping from and back into? But then I have to realize it's more so part of my process within my life. And I remember at points where I would feel insecure, and like for the first time I was feeling anxiety around the times I was like 11, 12, 13, and just feeling this huge weight and this pressure and just this anxiousness and insecurity, like this deep insecurity. And I wish that I could have had a certain mindset about love and where it stems from directly, to recognize peace and appreciate myself for just being who I am in those moments. And so on the topic of love, on the topic of that, I feel like too, a lot of times why a lot of relationships do not work out is mainly because of we set these expectations for the other person. And of course I'm just speaking it from experience and just being guilty of things myself, but not to bash myself, because you know, we all learn, we all like go through things to understand them, and that's the purpose of us being here. But like I was saying, with basically like with relationships, friendships, anything, we set this expectation for people to be a certain way, and love is not expected. So it's like, how can you set this expectation of someone and expect there to be this balance of love, and love is not expected? So it's like, once that kind of clicked to my mind, and I started to recognize that, I started to view things and like people just differently. And I'm recognizing like what I really truly desire for myself, and just for in general. Like, not only do in relationships do we expect love to be a certain type of way, which is unrealistic, because I feel like too, us kind of being like, it's almost like our imagination. If you set your mindset to having a broad imagination alone, by the way, is good, but it's like, if you set this imagination to a relationship or to a person, you will be in like la la land, basically, because you won't fully, you're seeing it from your perspective. That love that you're seeing and expecting is coming from yourself. And so why a lot of times we hop into these relationships but we do not necessarily get that love that we need in that time we need. A lot of times we'll hop into these relationships and we're eluding this love that we're seeing that's coming from us, that's expected, basically. Having a daughter was like the one thing that taught me, like deeply taught me, true unconditional love. Like I could be mad at someone, me personally, and just completely like just want to cut them off or just get to a point where I would never speak to them again. And because I just be like, what's the point? Or me too, I also have like, sometimes I can have a lot of pride, but with my daughter, this love is just like, it don't matter what she would do or like what type of person she would be, I would still love her unconditionally. Like it's a different, and I get emotional talking about my daughter, but it's just a different type of like a different type of love that I just never really had for. I mean, I've had love in relationships and friendships before and gotten my heart and feelings hurt before, but this type of love is just different. And that's the type of love that you would want within yourself and also within the people around you. But it's also comes with having that reciprocated, and once you have that within yourself, that energy will elude and then you'll match with the people that kind of come around. You'll basically, if you have that love for yourself, you wouldn't necessarily want to accept a relationship that's not going to be eluding that same type of love that you have for yourself. And a lot of times we can get to a point of settling, or get to a point, it's either settling or getting to a point of, I would say, expecting. Love is a practice, and it's a practice that you have to be consistent with, just like any relationships. If you build the consistency of love, which is practicing, which is also, which is my next point, love is also actions. And mainly, I think that was something that I kind of was a little bit naive about, being younger than me being young now, but love should be backed with actions. And a lot of times I felt like, if this person is speaking this nice stuff to me, and then they must really, really care about me, and then their actions would be halfway decent, or like not fully showing up the way that they speak with their words, or their words aren't matching basically their actions in terms of love or care for, or being consistent. Those things matter. And in terms of love, the actions within love basically matter the most, because love equals actions. Which is what I mean by practice, if that makes sense. So if you're practicing love, you're practicing love with your actions, basically. A person can speak all these great, nice, loving things and carefree things, but then if their actions don't match what they're speaking, and it's like the complete opposite, and it's not showing you love within the actions, then it's not love. And that's like one of the biggest things I recognize, because love is a practice. And if you were to have a healthy, boundful relationship with the person, friendship, relationship, anything, that love is basically a practice. Yes, so that love is basically a practice. When you are practicing that love, it will show up every day. Basically, like if you were to practice anything and be more consistent within it, it will show up within the results of what you're doing. So basically what I'm stating here is that in order to feel that love that you're searching for, it must show within your actions. And that's how the relationship or anything that you're doing, relationship with yourself, relationship with others, relationship with your kids, relationship with your family members that you correlate with, it's the actions basically within the love that you reciprocate. If you're showing love within your actions, then you are moving with love. And because love is a practice, and it takes practice to build within love.